Good evening and welcome to this Sunday's rendition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. Excuse me. Great to have each and every one of you here tonight. I see new people joining, people saying hello. So, as usual, I will say hello to everyone that's telling me hello. And we can, again, share, like the show. Let's build the audience, see if we can't have some interesting dialogue and conversation tonight. So, let me start with saying hello to my friends. Danielle Munoz, welcome to the show from way up north, Danny. Clayton Norwig, thanks for joining us tonight, Sherry. Clayton. Sherry Thomas, thanks for joining. Charlotte Gellert, thanks for joining. Bill Campbell, thanks for joining me, Bill. Luca Russo, thanks for joining. Cheryl Moulton, thanks for joining. Mary Boysworth, thanks for joining the show tonight. Mary, great to have you on here this evening. It's great to have all of my friends join me tonight as we engage in another edition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. Lee Wright, welcome to the show, and thanks for saying hello. John Bowers, present and accounted for as usual. Thank you, John. I'm going to make some comments tonight. I know that John's going to find interesting because I know John, right? I know John very well. So some of the things I talk about tonight, I know John's going to find interesting when I start talking about my City of Conyers stuff, John. So you stay tuned because I want your comments and your thoughts on the things I'm going to say about that. Justin Kinney, good evening. Welcome to the show, Justin. Justin might even chime in on some of the things that I talk about with the city and the stuff this evening also. Gail Owens, thank you, Gail, for joining today. And as always, nice to see you join the show tonight. So yeah, a couple. First of all, let's talk about what's coming up next Saturday. Next Saturday, November the 8th, will be our inaugural Veterans Day Parade, Veterans Celebration Parade. And you have till tomorrow, November the 3rd, to register as a vendor or to participate in the parade. So again, go to the county's website, call the county, reach out to them, and see if you want to get involved in that. Corliss Turner, thanks for joining the show tonight. Again, and the parade is going to be next Saturday in Old Town at 2 p.m. I intend to get there early, get there at 1 o'clock myself, get me a good spot, because I definitely want to go and honor our veterans and watch this parade. So something I'm looking forward to doing and honor our veterans. My father was a veteran. My father actually joined the military when he was 16 years old and fought in World War II. You know how that goes. Back in the day, they were more concerned about the able body rather than if they were technically supposed to be in the military. But my father had joined the army and was in North Africa at 16 years old, fighting in World War II. So I do want to honor those veterans and knowing what they sacrificed and what they gave up. Our veterans have given up for that you and I can have the freedoms that we have today. So I'm going to talk about a little something I did last night. First of all, before I get into some of the more serious things that we talk about. So last night, I took my wife and my granddaughter and we went over to Heritage High School, and their dance troupe put on a show last night. And I'll tell you what, first of all, I'm a fan of dance. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I really love theater and dance. Can't dance myself. Wish I could. I'm rhythmically challenged, but I am a theater geek. When I was in high school many years ago, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, I participated in theater and was actually on the all state acting cast, equivalent to being an all state an all-state athlete, which I also was. So, I was versatile, but I wasn't a theater geek. I loved theater, loved acting, and the dancing stuff. I love it too. But they put on a fantastic show. They're getting ready to go to New York and take that show and do it at New York, and then they have a booking agent that's going to come look at watch their show when they're in New York to see if they think the show is good enough to take on the road. So I would just want to say, man, congratulations to them. And they put on a great show, a lot of talent from our young people in Rockdale County. And like I said, it was just a fantastic performance. And I really, really enjoyed it. Actually, when Justin Kenny and I went with Superintendent Chesser to do the school visit the few weeks ago, they invited me to come watch the show, and I took them up on it and did, and was just, like I said, I really loved it. Those kids did a great job. One of the things I'm just like, again, let me do this disclaimer, right? I am not speaking on behalf of the board or the Rockdale County School District when I say this, but I am speaking on my behalf as a board member because it's something I personally believe. I really want to see us invest more in the arts, more in sports, more in theater and dance and music, because this gives these kids motivation to attend school, and we require academic success to be able to participate. It gives them motivation. And, if you don't attend, you can't participate. I remember when I went to school, I was motivated to go to school, and I was motivated to get good grades, because if I didn't go and if I didn't get good grades, I couldn't participate in the things I wanted to participate in. So I think it's a great idea for us to invest more in those realms. And I am going to start being more vocal and verbal about that. Like I said, right now, I think you don't know what you don't know. I wasn't aware that the school system didn't really have athletics for grade school kids. When I was in grade school, we had, basketball, right? I think that's something we should offer our elementary school kids, something I'm going to fight for moving forward. Just so you know, I mean, I think these are the kind of things that help improve attendance. And when we attach the academic requirements to it, it motivates kids to be able to work for something and a goal, and gives them a reason to attend school. So, I mean, that's something I personally believe in, and something that I'm going to fight for, because I believe that's something that's worthwhile to fight for. I think Marie Withers is here. George Kelichek is here. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Mary Boysworth says she's going to be at the Veterans Day Parade also. So thank you, Mary, for going to be joining us at the Veterans Day Parade. So one thing I want to do, I want to mention, make sure we all know, early voting wrapped up here on Friday, and I think we have over 1,000 folks that have voted so far in the city. Over 7,000 people have voted in the county on the Public Service Commission races, and we have had over 1,000 people vote so far in the city of the over 10,000. So that's right at 10%. It's better than the 5% we had going in to the last week of voting. But like I said, if you want your say to matter and your voice to matter in the city of Conyers, then you need to get out and vote. I'm also going to talk about some city of Conyers stuff, because some of you may have seen an article that was in Uncommon Ground, and it was posted on Facebook, that legislator Doreen Carter was disappointed with the city of Conyers about wanting to make charter changes, and there wasn't any public notice or big discussion about it. So are any of you aware of charter changes that the city was going to make? First, before I get into my spiel, if any of you guys want to put in the chat what you know about the charter, the changes in the charter that the city was going to make. Well, I know this is what I'm gonna say, and hope some of you guys comment in here too. I know very little about the changes in the charter the city was going to make because I don't think they made too big of a deal about it because maybe they were trying to slide it under the radar, right? That's just not right. Not right at all, guys. When we're going to make changes, we need to make changes and have meetings. And I know people said whenever the legislature last year, introduced legislation to make changes to the county charter, contrary to what people think or say, uh, there were many meetings about the county going to make, wanting to make changes to the county charter. Whether people agree with those changes or not, saying that there weren't meetings, you're not being honest. Just going to be real about it, right? But on the other hand, the city's going to change some things in the charter, and I'm going to tell you what I've heard some of the changes were because I can't confirm it because apparently it was a secret. And then John Bowers, this is what I wanted John to chime in about. It's like first he's heard of it. So I know John's somebody who likes people to say things that they're going to do, right? So I had heard they were going to make some changes about how employees were let go. And I think they wanted to put in there about the city manager could live outside the county boundaries. Because I think they're concerned about who may get elected to mayor and what they may do or not do with certain employees who may be employed who don't live within the city or county limits at this point. Now, first of all, I'm just going to go and say this, that anybody who knows me and has followed my show and my opinion about things for any length of time knows that I believe that people who hold upper level positions in our local governments need to be Rockdale County residents. Do I believe the county manager, if we would have one, needs to be a resident of Rockdale County? Yes. Do I believe the same thing for a city manager? If a person is going to be the city manager of Conyers, they should at least be a Rockdale County resident. That's firmly what I believe, right? Because I believe it's hard to set policies and govern when you're enacting ordinances and rules and they don't apply to you. First of all, my opinion. And then I'm also one that goes with this. I also believe to the victor goes the spoils. If elections have consequences, and if you win an election, then you need to have your people that are working with you. Because if you don't, it's, yeah, Gail said it was on the agenda a couple of times a week ago or so. And that's the thing about it. Having something on the agenda and publicizing it and talking about it, two different things. You put something on the agenda, most people they have no idea. They don't look at these. They don't look at the agendas that the Board of Education, the county, or the city put out. And that's what we've got to realize. I mean, that's what I mean. There are people, not saying that they're not good people that we would employ that wouldn't live here or whatever, but we need to we need to go that little extra mile and make sure that those people who are watching after us, they need to live here. They need to be here. Oh, and you're right, folks. I said the same thing about the superintendent of Rockdale County Schools, that the superintendent should live in Rockdale County. But and full disclosure again, this is Larry Cox, right? The superintendent of Rockdale County Schools does live in Rockdale County now. Just so we're all aware of that, right? The current superintendent of Rockdale County Public Schools is a resident of Rockdale County and has been a resident of Rockdale County for 2 decades. So can't go there. Vuco Russo, they must enjoy the same high taxes as the rest of us. Be aware of an individual man who urges an action in which they themselves incurs no risk. And that is exactly my point, John. And I think we saw that with the county all these years. We would have all these directors and assistant directors and department heads, and they would be enacting all these ordinances and policies, and they were not subject to the same rules and suggestions they were putting forward. So I don't think we want to go down that road. But also, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about something that Miss Osselbrook has said, that she intends to be a hands-on mayor and do the day-to-day operation. I'm not certain if the city's charter allows that. I'm not certain if that doesn't require a charter change, right? And this is the thing that I talked about, why that I wanted a county manager versus the day-to-day operations of the of a commission chair is because even though we elect people, a lot of time, the majority of the time, we elect people who don't have the experience that would be able to run a county day to day. We don't. The majority of the people that we elect do not have those skill sets. That they've not run a business, and they've not done that. So that's why these managers, when you go hire one that's a professional that does these things all the time, it benefits. So Corliss, I'm gonna take up for the people a little bit here too. They know these things are the way they post them. Nobody looks at those emails or those postings. When you're going to do something a little different, you got to go out of the box and advertise it and make sure people are aware of it, because trust me, they know nobody is looking. They know nobody is watching. When we had the 581 hearings, people were made aware of those hearings were going to happen. That's why the Board of Education boardroom was at max every hearing. That's why you had extra chairs and people there, and you had people coming and speaking, because it was in the public. It was well ever, people were making sure, because they knew it was significant. If you're going to change the charter, it is very significant. And Gail, she's a lot of times the only one at a city council meeting, and it's because and they're scheduled, like Alex says, at inconvenient times for stakeholders, so that it's not convenient for stakeholders to attend them, so they can get opposition. So guys, we've got to realize we got to expect more. We have to expect more. So I'm concerned, no matter who wins the election in the city, the direction and the path that we're going to go, because I don't like what I'm seeing before we even have regime change. And that's right. You heard me refer to it as regime change, right? Because if this is the way that it's going right now, that's what it's looked at, right? That's the way it's being perceived, right? So, guys, I mean, just get your ducks together. Quit trying to be sneaky and covert, and put things out there and be transparent. That's what we need to do. Make things transparent so that everybody can attend and be there. Hey, and just another little note. Y'all see my little thing up there? Breaking news. Well, I got new toys in the little thing that I do, and I thought I would put breaking news on there, because this is sort of like some hard reporting I'm doing tonight, right? This is like breaking news. I'm talking some smack tonight, because I ain't talked smack in a day or two. So city council meetings are at 6 p.m. the first and third Wednesday in our online, and but I think we could do a better job advertising. And then John says there may be a somewhat of a stigma for county residents who aren't in the city and may feel it's not appropriate for them to attend the meeting. Yet activities and changes to the city affect the county residents. And I talked to someone this week. The city intends on annexing some additional properties that don't really fit that mold. They say that they're trying to connect the dots, right? So a lot of times we asked one of the candidates, Brad, about this the other day about and he talked about just annexing that connects the dots. Well, I think they're doing some annexing that goes beyond connecting the dots because it's revenue generated. So we've got to be transparent about that nonsense, because I think there's some annexing going on, and Mr. Kelichek may be someone who may have done a little watchdogging about this, because there may be some annexing going on about a data center that's going to go somewhere, and the city may want access to some data center revenue. So, Corliss, I'm not one who thinks that we don't have enough time periods or whatever. None of it is really convenient for people who work. That's just reality. I mean, I've attended meetings for years, and I've had to arrange my schedule, this and that, and I have more of a flexibility of doing that, being a high-ranking official where I work. A lot of people do not have the flexibility to do that, right? But I think they don't a lot of times put out there the importance of what's in the agenda. And you just slide things in the agenda and, just sort of, we'll put it in the agenda, but not really talk about how important it is. And that happens. And now that they're streamed and you can go back and watch recordings, that's great too, right? And I've done that too. I do a lot of streaming and watching meetings that way, and go back and watch recordings, because just as busy as I have become, extremely busy this past year with being elected, being on the board, but also running the company. Business has just been crazy this year, and my presence has been needed more and more. So thank you, Charlotte. So the data center is getting a 10-year tax abatement from the county, so no abatement from the city. So that would explain why someone would want to annex it, right? John Bowers. See, this is why I said John Bowers was going to speak out today, because I knew he was. Right? John Bowers. So, Corey, if someone, okay, that was the wrong one. Let me get to John. Okay, I'll do Alex's a second too. Oftentimes, what is not shared or said is far more important than what is shared. John, that really hits it on the head. And then Alex talks about time period. Also, right? So Alex knows this very well, because Alex works in Marietta. So, and I think Alex works to 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, most evenings. So virtually impossible to get to one of these meetings. Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So if someone works in Atlanta and leaves work at 5 or 5:30, so you think they'll make a 6 p.m. meeting, think about it for a second. Alex, you and I, I've called you several times when you were going to try to make meetings, and you got on the road actually earlier and still were not able to make the meetings because you got caught up in traffic and it just didn't work out. and that's happened several times. So I just want us all to know, right? We've got to understand, trust me, guys, when I say this, is government doesn't want you at their meetings. They don't want you at their meetings. Now, I'm different. I want you to come to the meetings, right? I want you to come to the meetings. I've actually invited you to come to meetings. Please come to the Board of Education meetings. I want you there. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. I talk more about what's going on at that than anybody else. Do you have any other person that's elected to public office that comes out and talks to you guys as much as I do and says as much as I say? Trust me, people don't like me doing what I do. Justin has a comment to make. Yeah, Justin says it takes being an engaged citizen takes effort, and the agendas of all three are silos are published in the same times, places, and manner every time, and that is true. So Corliss wants to know a better time, Alex. So I'll tell you. So some people, said Gail said some people didn't even know that there was an election. No, that's true. Some people didn't even know there was an election. I mean, and that'll even happen when we have main elections. Some people won't know, but when you have one of these off-year elections, that's not even a midterm election. Oh yeah, you'll definitely have a lot of people. I took a class many years ago during even a main election cycle that you did all of your campaigning, all of your stuff that you were doing to try to get someone's attention for 90 seconds for the whole week. Everything that you were doing was an attempt to get someone's attention for 90 seconds. 90 seconds. And that was back in the 90s. So I'm going to tell you what, everything you do now, you're probably trying to get 30 seconds of their attention for a political issue for the week. Back in the 90s, when we weren't as distracted, didn't have social media, didn't have smartphones, you were fighting for 90 seconds of their undivided attention for political issues with everything that you were doing in the campaign. And now, with all the distractions, I bet it's 30 seconds. I bet if I would take that same class, they would tell me it's 30 seconds. And John, you're right, John. I'm going to put this there because John is exactly Rich's, and which is exactly why local governments often put referendums, PFAs, PLOS, etc., intentionally on ballots during off-cycle elections, because in off-cycle elections, people who are emotionally involved and pay attention, they're usually the only ones that participate in that election. Yeah, Alex, weekends. And I'll tell you, any of us who have ever attended Representative Rhonda Taylor's meetings at the library on Saturday do know those meetings are usually very well attended, and they're on weekends. And like someone mentioned about this being a senior community, you do have a lot of seniors that'll come out for those Saturday morning meetings. So yeah. So, Gail, I would say Gail just mentioned that we know that the city has an app that you can contact your city council person or the mayor. In the answer to that, I would say no. Most people are not aware that there's an app to contact them. And then Alex said exactly, they're always well attended. So, but yeah, Gail, I would say you 99%, and I would stand behind this number. 99% people are not aware that there's an app that you can do that is. And replying to John, and I agree with that also, Justin, if there is a robust opposition, then it should be. But I'll tell you what, I led a charge to oppose the SPLOST a couple of years ago. me and Alex worked on this together, right? And and we would probably have taken the 6 to 8 months. We did it in 2 months. We got a good number of people to vote against it, and it was if we would have been able to stop that SPLOST that year, we were just looking to delay it a year. They would have put it back on the ballot the next year. We would have been able to stop the courthouse because we'd have stopped that initial funding they needed to be able to move forward with it. It's very hard to stop something like that because you have to have money to actually campaign against something. Now, we did spend a little money. We spent some money on some billboards, some signs. I mean, we registered as an entity to actually oppose it. Now, the entity that supported it didn't even register the way they were supposed to support the SPLOST, right? But we did everything right because we knew they would have came down on us and enforced the stuff on us. So we followed the rules and did everything by the book. But it takes a little bit of money to oppose something. And to do it legally, you have to register as a group and file documents at the Board of Elections. A lot of people do. So how many of you knew that you have to do that? If you're going to spend money, you have to register at the Board of Elections to be able to spend money to put campaign signs up to oppose something. You do. And anytime that I've done something and I've put signs on and up, we have filed the proper paperwork. The bond referendum did fail, and we were able to do that, Justin, because we had plenty of time to do it. We had a lot of time to do that, and we had significant time to do it, and we spent money there too, and we registered as an organization. Again, anything that was done has been done legally and properly, and you've got to have people that are organized and willing to do that. But I'm glad we got this dialogue going here, and the audience is building tonight too. So, but there's people watching that want us to know they're watching, and I like it when they watch. just so you know, guys. I mean, I love it when people are watching that don't want us to know they're watching, because that's when we know we're getting the message out, and we're that's when we know we're really rocking it, right? Alex will tell you when that 2018 thing, when that bond was defeated, that was a true effort, and you had a lot of different people working together who usually don't work together, and it was similar to what we had this in 24 elections, when you had all the different coalition come together to work to unseat a chairperson, a post one commissioner, and a sitting board of education person. You had that same kind of community feel and electricity that was in the air about the election. You really did, right? And that takes, you got to look. You had a lot of people spending a lot of money. You had Commissioner Van Ness spending money, Chairman Van. You had Tawanya Smith spending money. You had myself spending money campaigning. You had people out there that were putting the message out there, and then you had organizations like Voice for Rockdale. You had all this stuff going on, and then Alex just mentioned back in 18, we had fake accounts. We were being attacked. It's very similar to this past time. It was tough, right? 2018 was tough. 2024 they were both tough political environments to be running a political campaign in, right? Mr. Kenney knows that himself. Mr. Kenney ran a campaign in 2024 and knew personally, firsthand, that was a tough political environment to be running a campaign in. And it was an interesting uh, uh, environment. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the environment, enjoyed what we did and how we did it. Um, uh, you know, but the thing about it, Alex, and you can reiterate, you and I both knew when we talked about 2018 and when we stopped that bond, Alex and I both had conversation. This isn't over. They'll find a way to go around us. Alex and I had that conversation, and lo and behold, here comes the PFA and those bonds that they did. And Justin, said he lost 2 elections before 24, and 24 was certainly interesting, right? So Alex and I, we had conversations about what, and I'll tell you, the 2018 election was a very fun election, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the 2024, even though it was challenging, it was exciting and it was fun to participate in, because you just had so much energy from the public. The public was so engaged, and and you felt that the public wanted change, right? So it was very exciting to participate in, and that's one of the reasons that I want to continue this show. I want to continue my effort to be transparent with you about the way I feel about things, the way I look at things, and the way that I believe government, your elected officials, they should go above and beyond being transparent to you, right? And and I think one of the things that that we need to make sure of is, and I can tell you this from being on one board, right? The Board of Education. And again, speaking not for the board or as an opinion of the board, just my own opinion. Executive sessions. I can say that the Board of Education executive sessions do adhere to what executive sessions are supposed to just adhere to. My concern is the other entities, and do their executive sessions hold true to what they're only supposed to be discussing in executive session. Because I'm going to tell you right now, folks, the board that I'm on, and I don't care to say this, and people can get mad at me. If we would violate that, you would know it, because I would tell you. If we would violate what we're supposed to talk about in executive session, I would tell you, because I am not playing those games. I am, for one, will not condone it and will not play those games. But also, you got to understand, we have 7 board members, and we can have conversations with each other. The city has 5 board members and a mayor. They can have conversations with each other. The Board of Commission does not, but only has 3 members, and they can't talk to each other except at executive session and at the board meetings themselves. They're not allowed to have conversations with each other about county business outside of an open forum. And that's concerning. That's the main reason that I am for expansion of the Board of Commission. Because I believe that if they could speak to each other, things would work out a lot better. One of the reasons I believe that, my opinion, my personal opinion, the Board of Education works as well as it does is we can have conversations with each other. I bounce stuff off board member Kenny all the time, and because we're able to bounce things off of each other and have conversations with each other, then then you know where you stand as individuals and a board, and then you don't get blindsided when you go to a meeting and you don't know how anybody's going to vote. You know how people are going to vote when you can talk to each other. You do. You know how something's going to go if you can talk to each other, and that is a good thing. It is a very, very, very good thing. Alex, I'll put your thing up there. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just gonna put it up there. There you go, guys. That was Alex's comment about that. So, oh Lord, crazy, crazy day. Yep, and that is that's only true when those communicating with each other do not constitute a quorum. Correct, John. Do not constitute a quorum. Um, and that's what you got to understand. When there's three people and two people talk to each other, it's a quorum. It's a quorum. When you got three and two of you talk outside of the public, it's a quorum. That's a quorum. And that, in my opinion, it's hard to do something when you can't have a conversation with each other, and you got to go through people to actually pass messages, and you have a conversation with this person, and then they take that message and have the conversation with the other person. Very difficult. Doesn't work well. Doesn't work well at all. Not at all. So that goes into something I want to talk about: economic development. So, where do you guys? We've all talked about economic development. People talk about these Whole Foods and these and that and whatever, whatever, whatever. Yes, Alex, it violates the Sunshine Law. It violates the Sunshine Law. What do you think that we should be focusing on in this county, in this city, as economic development? Justin, Larry, thank you. Any day, Justin, and it's very helpful to have that sounding board, to be able to do that. So, but I do want to know, what do you guys think about economic development? And should, if there are big things that could happen, if those, if big things, could happen or possibly happen, should economic development be something that's talked about in executive session, or do you think that should be talked about in open? Because if it's land acquisition, whatever, right? So, if we already own the land and you're thinking about selling it or whatever, you know what I mean? It's actually mine and your land, right? So why would it be okay to keep a secret from me about property that I own? I have a problem with that. I really do. I think I think we should be more transparent with economic development in this county so that we know what's going on. And I'm going to tell you something else, folks. Some of you might get a little pissed at me about this, but we got to stop being against everything. Because if you don't want to pay property taxes, then we got to let some development occur in this damn county. You've got to let some businesses come in here. You might not like everything, but if you don't want to carry the burden as residential property owners, then you got to stop this opposing everything that wants to come into this county. Just telling you. Can't have it both ways, guys. You can't say, well, I want to pay less property tax, but then I don't want these businesses coming here. I don't want this coming here. You're going to have to let something come here if you want that relief. Flip the digest. That's right. Flip the digest. So I'm not just saying, guys. And we, and I think part of the reason that people resist these ideas is because they're kept secret from us and double secret. And we ain't telling you because we don't want to hurt you. We don't want you to know. You know what I mean? I think the reason they don't trust anything coming in here is because they don't trust government, because government's not being transparent with them in the first place. That's the reality of it, right? So, guys, we got to quit being against everything. And that's why politicians irritate the crap out of me when they oppose things and don't come with a viable solution or alternative. And that's the thing about me, guys. If when I have always come with a solution to a problem. Me and George Kelichek has talked about that before. And if you'll notice with George is very diligent with that. When George identifies a problem, George will come back with a solution to that problem. And I firmly believe that's what we have to do. When we identify something as a problem, we just don't say it's a problem, we need to stop it or get rid of it. We need to say this is a problem, and these are the things we can do to correct the problem. And then he said, George says, by the way, the Dogs won against the Gators yesterday. Yeah, that happened. Yep, that happened. So, but guys, we have got to demand transparency, demand open communication. If there's something that you want to do with property we own, then tell us what you want to do with the property, especially if we've paid millions of dollars of taxpayers' dollars for it. We deserve to have input and know what's going on. So come on, guys. Get in. Let us know what's going on. Tell us what's going on. Speak your mind, folks. Let's get out there and say this is what we need. We need transparency. We need openness. Alex says it should be done in the open. And that's what we need to do. We need to do things in the open. Alex, that was the entire point of This Week in Rockdale, to put things out in the open. And if we put things in the open, then all will be right in the world. That's what we need to do. Put things in the open. Well, let me ask you guys. I've enjoyed tonight's dialogue. I enjoyed tonight's show. I enjoyed coming on. Now, I'm going to tell you, I bet there's some folks out there that didn't enjoy my dialogue tonight. I bet there's some folks out there that wished I would just shut up and go away. Well, it's not happening quite yet. I'm not shutting up, not going away. I'm here, and I'm here to stay for a minute. And you guys deserve transparency. You deserve honesty. You deserve someone who will fight for you and with you. And I hope to be that person and continue to do that for years to come. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight, allowing me to have this conversation with you. I want to thank each and every one of you that participated in this dialogue tonight. I want to thank you for speaking your mind, putting your opinion and voice out there for others to see as they tune in and see this show later this week. John says, those are the shadow walkers. Sunlight is harmful to them and their agendas. And that is true. That's why we need to keep everything in the open, everything transparent, and give you an opportunity and an avenue to be able to let your voices be heard. Justin, this will be unpopular, but you cannot have a public discussion about a land sale from the dais. It's the equivalent of having a real estate agent represent the buyer and the seller. Well, Justin, after we buy the land, I think it's totally appropriate to be able to talk about the land. Totally appropriate to be able to talk about the land. In my opinion, totally appropriate, especially when it's millions and millions of dollars of taxpayers' dollars. Now, I think there should be you go look. There's a difference between public and private. But the public business got every right in the world to keep everything secret you want. Defeats the purpose of government and transparency. Got to do things a little different, in my opinion. So, guys, let's go ahead and end this show tonight on this note. Thank you. And join me next week. We'll have election. We'll know who won the election. We'll know all that. And we'll be able to talk about those things and what that may or may not look like. So let's do that. Let's have a little conversation next week about the aftermath and the fallout. And again, thank you all for joining me and putting your comments up here. Sometimes it's not easy to do that because, you might get a little bit of pushback about it. But let's go ahead and say good night and see you guys next week. Remember, don't be afraid to speak your mind.